activate, as energy is matter, activating our quantum power for planetary transformation in a holographic cosmos. In these extraordinary times of upheaval, many are feeling bewildered, in limbo. We have lost our accustomed reference points and are grappling for new directions. The old stories are breaking down, revealing rot beneath the floorboards. But what do we have to replace them with? How do we forge a new future? Underneath the clamor and chaos of conflicting and confusing narratives, there are subtle clues that point the way. They rise from the stillness, silence, and space that is actually our true nature. Our calling today is to tune into that space and birth into being the new world already contained in its potentials. Today we know from cutting-edge quantum physics, as well as ancient sacred traditions, that consciousness, energy, and matter are interchangeable, existing on a continuous spectrum. Consciousness, as the fundamental basis for all that is perceived, expresses itself as energy frequencies, which constellate as the apparent world of solid, separate bodies, objects, and events, much as a movie is projected from a single stream of light, since we ourselves exist on all three dimensions. If we can access the deeper levels of consciousness and energy within us, we can transform their expression as our material reality, the outer world we see. In short, we change the movie on the screen by changing what is projecting it. In the end, even the division between inner and outer, seer and seen, falls away into that singular essence, boundless and eternal. We are that eternal unity, as well as its self-transformative power. To understand and embody, this is the key to both our transformation and our liberation, our highest power and highest freedom. This opens up a tantalizing possibility at a time when it is much needed, when the movie appearing on the screen has become, let's face it, one that no one wants to see, a dystopian nightmare. Can we draw on the subtle levels of consciousness and energy within us to meet our global crises and create a healthier, just, humane, and more enlightened society? Can we cultivate our deepest connection to the ground of evolutionary possibilities, the quantum potentials at our core, and enact those possibilities with others to transform our world from one of crisis and fragmentation to one of coherence, integrity, caring, love, and regeneration, alchemizing the descending darkness through the true light of consciousness, the secret roots of power and how we can reclaim them. Consciousness and energy as the levers of radical social transformation. The most powerful levers for our healing and transformation, in fact, lie in the inner levels of consciousness, energy, and psyche. It is by tapping into these inner, invisible levels, pure, unconditioned consciousness, quantum energies and biofields, worldview and cultural thought forms, that we access the deepest leverage to transform ourselves and our world, aligning our intentions with the evolutionary blueprint latent in our DNA, activating its dormant potentials into manifestation. When confronted with harsh challenges, our instincts are for flight or fight, withdrawing completely, or meeting force with force. We see this today and feel it in fear and anger, distraction and denial, suppression and despair. But we can transcend these instinctive reactions and learn to leverage the unseen powers within us that can alchemize our crises, catapulting a leap in consciousness that delivers us to a new reality, whole new dimensions of perception. Reality itself is far more malleable than we think, depending on how we see it and meet it. As Nikola Tesla famously said, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. The world we see is made of frequencies, and as we refine and uplevel our own, we open the portal to new potentials. We are entering into a quantum world, leaving behind the linear one. In this world, we are creators, not victims. The crises we face are not just of our physical world, but a crisis of consciousness behind it. And that crisis is not just one of breakdown, but also of transformation, a breakthrough of quantum dimensions. An extraordinary opportunity is before us, if we can consciously recognize it and ride it to its fullest potentials. Consciousness and energy are the secret roots of our power, and now is the time to reclaim them. By tapping into the quantum powers of consciousness and energy, we can. Within every atom of this creation lies consciousness and energy, including every atom and cell of our own being. These three levels, consciousness, energy, and matter, live simultaneously and superimposed within us, though most people, especially in the materialistic modern world, recognize only the latter. In fact, the physical and material patterns of our bodies and our world are merely outer reflections of these inner patterns of consciousness. The patterns at these inner levels prefigure and determine the outer appearance of our existence. Our bodies, brains, senses, and the objects and events that appear to them as. Today we are starting to realize that we can access these deeper levels and therefore have far greater power over our body, brain, senses, and the events and effects that occur in that. When we join neuroscience to quantum physics, a vision emerges of how we can access that unseen field of quantum potential that underlies the events in our world. We do this through altering our brain waves, creating whole brain and heart-brain coherence, and activating latent DNA that hooks up our electromagnetic field with the greater cosmic and planetary field. Mystics, shamans, and yogis have always done this intuitively, but now we are beginning to explain it with modern science and activate these powers in ourselves. We are standing on the brink of a massive shift in our perception of reality. What we are, what our world is. It is fascinating that this knowledge and the powers it accords are emerging now. I believe it is because we have reached such a critical point in our evolution, a potential endpoint for humanity, that we need to either develop these innate inner technologies and reclaim our power to change our world, or be destroyed by the dystopian outer technologies that are now being forced upon us. We will come back to this later, but first, let us take a look at how these inner breakthroughs can be ignited. A quantum leap from linear to holographic reality. How can we accelerate that quantum leap that will both potentize our creative powers and deliver us to our true freedom? Evolution could be said to be the progressive widening of our perceptual frameworks, letting the light and vastness of our true nature, which encompasses all creation, shine through. Most of us live within a very narrow frame of perception, limited by both our biological and social conditioning. We see only what we have been programmed or taught to see. Interestingly, at this time of huge evolutionary upheaval, this narrow framing of our reality is breaking down, or rather we are at a revolutionary choice point, either to let it completely close in on us, obliterating all our freedoms, or break it open and break free into the wider levels of consciousness and creative potential that are our birthright. In fact, an explosion in consciousness is primed now to take place, displacing our old perception of reality, both through the revelations of modern science and from within our own being. Key to this is the recognition that we are not separate, finite, merely material bodies, living briefly and departing, but part of a conscious, energetic, holographic universe, connected with and containing within ourselves the entirety of creation and its infinite potentials. Just as each cell in our body contains the DNA for the creation of our whole body, so it is possible that our body, like a cell in the wider universe, contains the DNA for the whole universe, both its past and future. Indeed, we know that our body, and each cell within it, contains the cumulative evolution of all past life forms on the planet, right from the first burst of cosmic stardust, and that this process is ongoing as our latent DNA holds instructions yet to be activated in the future. It may be then that just as our DNA unfolds and unfolds the entire evolution, past and future, of the human race, so each of us are nodes, holographically, of the greater evolution of the whole cosmos, and the implications of this are tremendous. Our genes contain the seeds of the genius that created and continues to create the entire. It means that as we unfold the latent codes of DNA within us, we co-create in the evolution of the cosmos, including our collective and planetary evolution. Our DNA strands entrain holographically with the universe's own currents, streams of energy, exchanging information. This means that we are far more powerful than we thought, for if we align with the greater fields of cosmic intelligence, they have our back and propel us. We are fractals of the whole that contain the codes for the whole. We are called in these extraordinary times to recognize that this is so, and in this very recognition begin to decode and unfold. So what are the conditions that activate these codes into manifestation? How do we unfold those latent DNA strands and hook up with the tapestry of the ever-unfolding cosmos? How heart-brain coherence activates our DNA, spins consciousness into matter, and ignites our quantum powers of advanced quantum physics, the neurophysics of consciousness, and new cosmological discoveries are shedding new light on the conditions that activate our quantum powers to affect our world. Practices to synchronize both hemispheres of the brain and create heart-brain coherence, activating gamma waves and latent DNA, set off a holographic cascade of toroidal fractals at all scales that spin, literally turn consciousness into energy and matter. Positive, coherent emotions and intentions activate these toroidal patterns in our DNA, which in turn entrain the light photons in the energetic field and material world around us to replicate these coherent, harmonious patterns at the manifest level. Thus, through a chain of energetic, psychological, and biological effects, we affect the world around us, including at the physical, social, ecological, and even global planetary levels. Our own internal coherence and harmony creates the same in the world around us, via the activation of our inherent DNA that holds the codes for the highest potentials of both. Contrary to what we've been taught, we do not stand in competition with the world, but oneness with it, and therefore our highest interests. The way out of our evolutionary impasse, then, is actually within us, for each of us contains the evolutionary codes of the future of humanity in our latent DNA. We cannot afford to be derailed by the dystopian transhuman agenda currently being touted. We need to reclaim our power before it is too late. The urgency of this choice point cannot be overstated, for once such a system is in power, it would crush our free will, human rights, and our very humanity. Thus, the opportunity of unprecedented dimensions before us is not just an opportunity, it is also an ultimatum. The current agenda in power is global, systematic, leveraging consciousness and energy, but for the wrong purposes, their own profits and world domination. Modern technologies are being deployed, often through subliminal programming, much of it through our cell phones, social media, and mainstream media, as well as ubiquitous MF radiations, to control our brainwaves. The rising technocratic New World Order only intends to augment that direction with brain microchips, injectables, and implantables, hooking up the entire global population to the electromagnetic frequencies and signals of the AI grid, a dystopian nightmare of total control and surveillance from the inside out. We need to overcome this through an even more powerful global systemic network and movement, likewise leveraging consciousness and energy, but for the good, for our liberation. This would start with the decentralization of the current systems of material power and the recentering of our power in our own communities and our own. This power can then ripple out into a new emergent consciousness, new systems, and a new earth of caring, love, freedom, cooperation, and regeneration, igniting new creation from the deepest source of our own infinite potential, coded in our very DNA for the highest good of humanity and the highest good of all life. If human evolution is not to be subverted into a mutated, transhuman nightmare, now is the time to make this vital quantum evolutionary leap, activating our quantum power for planetary transformation in a holographic cosmos. New human beings are not just material in our nature. Behind the material appearance of our bodies lies our deeper nature, the constellations of consciousness and energy that generate and project that appearance. We have it within our power to access those deeper levels and leverage radical transformation in that outer reality. Our bodies, whatever other levels of action we engage to transform our world in this time of crisis, and many are needed, it is vital that we leverage them from this deepest fulcrum where our deepest power lies. These inner dimensions are the helm from which we drive our future, reclaiming our innate powers to co-create with others the world we truly want. Heart-brain coherence and positive intention activates our DNA to act. It has become increasingly apparent that it is through the activation of our latent DNA that we gain access to the quantum field to help co-create reality and alter the course of events in positive intentions and emotions. Whole brain and heart-brain coherence help set up the conditions for this to happen. The DNA are strings emitting vibrational waves. Through the power of our thoughts and intentions, we fine-tune and up-level those waves to bring them into sync with and activate into manifestation the latent evolutionary dimensions in the greater spectrum of our being by projecting higher intentions forward, congruent with our higher evolution. We call to us collapse from the field of infinite wave potentials, the particular future intended. The astonishing thing is that these higher possibilities are already within us. When we tune into their frequencies, we can birth them into being, shattering the limitations of our perceived separation from others, nature, and in this we gain the power to act upon and alter events within the time-space matrix, even as we transcend the illusory divisions it normally imposes on our perception. Scientists have actually found that when we are in the grip of a contracted emotion, the strands of our DNA also contract, becoming more rigid. When, on the other hand, we generate heart-brain coherence, our DNA literally livens up, activating previously latent wavelengths, which as they entwine harmonically within each other, generate toroidal patterns. These higher frequencies communicate far more effectively with the wider subtle bio and quantum fields, amplifying our creative power and powers of manifestation at the greater social and collective levels. According to the latest cutting-edge research, when the 7 harmonic wavelengths coded in our DNA activate and entwine in this way, the toroidal DNA created implodes through its own center, black hole, into the zero-point field of potential from which all creation arises. Thus, our energy implodes both back into the very source of creation itself and outwards, as its infinite potentials for creative manifestation. This means that, far more than we realize, each of us has a direct hotline via our holographic power, both back to the timeless source of creation within us and to our collective future. The toroidal holographic cascade from our activated dina, turning consciousness into energy, into matter, at all levels, and back again. The torus is the perfect expression of holographic, multi-dimensional interconnection and oneness, a perfect expression of the seamless yet dynamic unity of all existent. It acts as a conversion point between consciousness, energy, and matter, spinning out the multiple dimensions of creation and back again into its core of pure zero-point potential. When our DNA is awakened, cinching up with the toroidal patterns at play across dimensions, we co-create in this process, becoming active, conscious participants in this participatory universe. The whole brain and heart-brain coherence activates gamma waves and latent DNA strands, which unfold into toroidal vortices, broadcasting new energy information in the form of light photons. These in turn entrain and synchronize holographically with other toroidal currents of energy information at all scales of the body, human society, the planet, and cosmos, cross-fertilizing energy information from all levels to co-create new realities. The universe is a dynamic spectrum of frequency levels, which, when aligned with their center and source, the zero-point field of pure consciousness, acts as hologram of nested toruses at all scales and communicating energy information up and down the line in synergistic resonance and co-creation. When this alignment occurs, there is an implosion and explosion that irrigates its energies throughout all levels of creation. This includes, at the physical level, our cells, our organs, at the energetic level, the double helix of our DNA, and if, when aligned, all these toroid currents, from the microcosmos of our body's atoms to the galaxies of the cosmos, entrain, act. Each of these spirals, at different scales, is a fractal of the whole, and so can ignite ripple effects, like harmonics, that help bring all other scales of the whole into harmony, unity, and alignment. Thus, as we awaken our own heart, brain, and DNA through meditation, energy, psychology, and new techniques from biofield and quantum science, we gain the power to ignite deep personal, social, and planetary transformation, so essential in these times of crisis. Two wings of the dove, the new science of consciousness and the liberation of love. Interestingly complex as the science may sound and demanding its practice, there is a shortcut to the transformation needed, and it cuts straight to the heart. Science has shown that the generation of deep feelings of love, compassion, and gratitude vastly amplifies the power of our intentions to affect change in the field around us. Brain-heart coherence is automatically generated in the presence of such higher emotions, creating the cascade of holographic effects we spoke of earlier, gamma waves, latent DNA activation, and the entrainment of multidimensional nested toroidal spins at all levels. This in converting consciousness into matter and back again, continually collapsing into and radiating from their center. In fact, one could say these deep feelings of love and compassion are the essential fulcrums of our quantum capacities, whether we even know the science or not. In essence, all creation springs from love in the heart of the cosmos and the heart of our being, emanating into the forms of the world and continually back again into its core of infinite potential. Cultivating and deepening these states of love and compassion, starting with self-love and self-compassion, activates the train of neurophysiological and brainwave upgrades that gives us entry into the quantum field and its power to transform our world. So for those who want a shortcut, a direct path, There's one, straight to the heart. See the work of HeartMath Institute, Gregg Braden, and Dr. Dawson Church for more on this. We have the potential to unwind the distorted world we have created back to the 0 point of pure potential and whirl new worlds into being. The feelings of love and compassion in action are like a coil spring from which a whole new world can emerge. This potential exists within the heart of each of us, and far more powerfully, as a collective, in a world where we have outsourced our power, with consequences increasingly lethal, it is time to take our power back in our own hands, and that power begins in the heart, generating and projecting deep feelings of unity, love, gratitude, care, and compassion to all around us, from which needed healing and realignment of our outer systems and a renaissance of life on Earth will flow. Holical effects of brain-heart coherence, holographic toroidal activation phases into the scalar waves of pure 0 point consciousness, the source of creation. The neurophysics of consciousness and new cosmological research point to an ever bigger picture of who we are and how our inner powers interface with the universe. We are truly the children of stars, and even more fundamentally, the source of the cosmos, or 0 point field of creation itself, both its emanations and its essence. The whole brain and heart-brain coherence, with the consequent activation of latent DNA and gamma brainwaves, appear to ignite a quantum leap, or qualitative phase shift into scalar waves, beyond the speed of light and the time-space matrix, plugging us into the infinite potentials of the 0 point field of consciousness. This field is the very source of creation, and our capacity to consciously connect with it vastly amplifies our power to synchronize with its boundless potentials. In fact, we have always been its waves, but when we truly realize our unity with the source of creation, our own power and freedom become scaling up our focus from individual to collective transformation. Much research is being done on how we can lay the conditions to sync up in this way with the quantum powers of the universe, particularly for our own healing, e.g., Dr. Joe Dispenza, and technologies developed to accelerate this process, linking us up with the scalar energies of the 0 point field of consciousness, Dan Winter, Dr. Sandra Michael, etc. Now, can we expand this to collective access to our powers, quantum, holographic, and scalar, to heal and transform not only ourselves individually, but our greater society and our planet at this time of tremendous crisis and transition? We live in a consensus reality generated by our collective belief systems, worldviews, and projections. How can we shatter this trance state and break into the vast powers of our true unbounded being and its limitless potential? We get what we believe in and envision. Can we generate a whole new vision? And the emphasis is on whole here, because this concerns not only ourselves and our planet, but the entire cosmos. Our worldview frames our reality and truncates all the rest. Can we open up that view to embrace all of creation and its source, discovering our oneness with both as we drop the false perception of separation that has so long enslaved us? I do not have the answers, of course, but am proposing this as an immensely fertile field for research, exploration, and action, bringing together scientists, mystics, and activists in what may be the most potent, a choice point between our extinction or an astonishing quantum leap in our human capacities, creative power, and personal and collective. Modern science and outer technologies may be a bridge to the recognition of these powers, but ultimately it is by turning inwards that we truly reclaim them. as our own innate birthright, our innate connection to the sacred source of creation within us. It is only when we are in alignment with this, the ground of our true nature, that we are truly free in our own power, no longer subject to the authority of others who may abuse their power over us. So even as we use the outer science to verify these hidden powers within us, I feel it is essential that we learn to access those powers directly, opening up the hotline to the source of creation already inside us, the unified field of consciousness that is our ultimate true being. The oneness of consciousness, energy and matter, is the key to both our power and our freedom. Consciousness spins off energy and matter as its own self-similar fractals, its own emanations at all levels of manifestation. Trace them back, and we return to pure consciousness. This is who we are, both the unified field, the whole, and the particular part. The role that we are temporarily playing in the form of a body, mind, and the worldview it is projecting into manifestation. When we tune into the center of the whole, we begin to flow with its wisdom and unity, the information energy it exudes, bringing the deepest template of the evolution of creation into expression in this planetary dimension, even as we stay connected with the deepest truth of our being, which is infinite and eternal. I believe the crises we are facing today are driving us to do just this, to bring the manifest levels of our being, including our own bodies, societies, ecological and social systems, into alignment with our deepest core, expressing the love and unity that naturally arises from that universal source of creation within us. Can we leverage the deepest levels of our being consciousness and energy to materialize the world we desire, a world of caring, love, and harmony, planetary regeneration and flourishing, reflecting the unity at our core and our sacred interconnectedness with the whole of cosmic creation? I believe we can create a critical mass on board with this intention, displacing and dispersing the destructive agendas that would lead us in the opposite direction. We do this through the light in our hearts and the power of our caring, compassion, and connection, bridging the long-standing rift between the invisible sacred dimension and our manifest reality. It is up to us, not outside forces, fate, or destiny that can impose on us. What we see and what we get depends upon what frequencies we tune into and what intentions we project. What do we attune to and what do we project? This will determine, individually and collectively, the next reality. That the keys to the world we want are in reach at exactly the time we need them. Let us take them in hand and to heart and open up the portals to both our highest power and our highest freedom.